Well, from the bottom of my heart, welcome to Berlin. It's always wonderful to be back in Germany. Some of my colleagues and even my customers know, that I spent 3 years living in Munich. So I have fond memories of Germany, the people, the culture, the food, yes, the food, and Oktoberfest. So thank you, Gori, for that memory. I have a distinct pleasure to introduce Jeff Sutton, who is Head of Transformation, Chief Technology Officer for OfficeMax in New Zealand. Jeff has been a very valued long-term customer of Stibo Systems and actually a partner and innovator in the area of AI. So there's the tie-in for this discussion. I really want to thank Jeff coming all the way from New Zealand to be with us today, and I'd like to offer him a warm welcome. Thank you. Thank you. So many of us are probably familiar with OfficeMax. I certainly have shopped at OfficeMax in the US. Can you share a little bit more about OfficeMax New Zealand and some of the challenges you've been working with?
Yeah, no problems. Look, first of all, very humbled to be sitting up here after hearing some of those stories around the scale. So as I roll into OfficeMax New Zealand, we are a standalone business. We're owned by private equity. We are a B2B reseller. We service about 100,000 businesses in New Zealand. We support them through product, through ranging. We've got about 700 suppliers from around the world, and at the moment we're ranging around 50,000 SKUs. We cover everything from coffee, beer, wine, spirits, health and safety, high-vis jackets, through to hospital beds, incontinence products. Our aim is effectively to help workplaces work better.
Thank you. I, having experienced my own shopping at OfficeMax in a physical store, it was interesting to hear about your business model, very different. So you, OfficeMax New Zealand won an innovation award last year at Connect at Orlando around the area of AI. Can you tell us a little bit more about the tools you're using and how you're deploying that?
Yeah, I'm probably going to start way back over here a little bit before we get to the AI and the why. When I was brought into OfficeMax about 5 years ago, we had just been acquired by private equity. And for those of you that are owned by private equity, you'll know that whilst we're a successful business, have been around about 150 years, they wanted more. They always want more, right? And fair enough. And so the business over 150 years had evolved and augmented and bits being added on and taken out and sold. And no one had actually sat back and taken the time to work out the organizational structure, the dynamics, the systems, the integration, the data flows, effectively the operating model. So my first job was to build a target operating model. What were the value streams? What created value to our customers, our stakeholders, and our staff? Right? And then you're going to hear me talk about that three-way win right the way through this. We then built gap analysis to what we needed to excel at to be brilliant. And from that, one of the key streams was around our data flows, data accuracy, our data lake, and effectively information and insights. And this was a giant project that led us to Stibo and getting rid of a PIM, a DAM in different systems, 3 Access databases, and probably about 10 Excel spreadsheets. And so we moved it all into Stibo. I was lucky enough, though, that I got to restructure the company at the same time. So we went from having, and this is where we get into the AI, we went from having between 10 and 15 people involved in signing a single piece of paper to get a SKU loaded that took up to 6 weeks. And because I was able to restructure the company, we took it down to 2 people. We implemented Stibo and the workflow. And then we started doing time and motion studies. And as we did that, we found the highly repetitive tasks, and we found very, very slim use cases for AI where it could excel. And so the first 2 that we put in here was around writing web descriptions and clear cutting and prepping images for our website. So by restructuring the business, in terms of making sure people knew what they needed to do, had the skills to do it, had KPIs, had measurables. By implementing Stibo with workflows and then augmenting them with AI, we went from 6 weeks to set up a SKU to 4 hours. In addition, so that was the first one.
Keep going.
At the same time, though, we also found that our NPS data was showing up that our customers were getting frustrated because they were using the web chat, right? Quite, and no one was getting back to them. And our phone system didn't prioritize chat over voice, and there was all sorts of issues. But when we dived into the data, we found most of the questions were very basic product-related questions of the 50,000 SKUs we've got. So for those that are technical, we set up a quasi-RAG model very, very quickly that effectively acted as a chatbot. We put in very narrow control points, and we essentially built an AI tool over our website that responded to customer queries around the products, the use of the products, the chemicals, if they could go into hospitals or schools or all of those sorts of things. And that saved about 60% to 70% of the traffic going into our call center from the chat. So those both went in a year ago.
Yeah, great. That's great to hear, especially with all the focus lately on the value being driven from both the customer experience and also the employee side. So you've really modeled well in terms of that focus.
Yeah, and it leads in, I suppose, to how we are using AI to improve our business. We have 3 fundamental pillars. It's got to be great for the employee experience, it's got to be great for the customer experience, and it's got to be great for your stakeholder experience. And when I say stakeholder, it's owner, it's the environmental, and the social groups all in that bucket. And you can't go for one by itself, because if one pillar is higher than the other 2, everything falls off. If you can imagine a table, you can't go for 2 and leave one behind, because again, the tables and everything falls off. You've got to balance all 3 of them. And this is one of the biggest challenges that we've had, is you've got to focus on what is the problem. It's not AI. AI is just another software. If you talk to developers, it's software 3.0. I tend to try and train people to say that it's more of an intern. Right? It's going to get stuff wrong. It's going to come in drunk one day. It's going to miss work. It's going to get stuff wrong, right? So what we are doing as a business, we're doing it in 2 different paths. We are actively training not only our internal staff, but I'm running 3-hour crash courses in AI with our suppliers and our customers. All right, and that aim is, as an individual, how do you save 2 hours a day through using AI tools? I have 6 I use daily. I have my own RAG model sitting at home, my own LLM. I have got agents running at the moment that automate a lot of my work. Neurodivergent mind, I love it. But unless people start to use it personally, they can't see where the challenge is or where it works well at the moment, because there are some giant downsides. It doesn't solve everything. Right? So that's as an individual. And then as a business, we've just deployed or deploying our first agentic AI model right now over the top of our Stibo data. And shameless plug for tomorrow, I am doing sort of a session and going to be talking about this, but essentially we've built an agentic AI model across all of our Stibo data. We've contextualized it, we have tokenized, we have created the vectors. We've also created 2 lots of, I suppose, traditional SQL data to do dollars and cents, sizes and weights for all of our products, because, Gen AI does not handle dollars and cents very well. But the cool thing is we've actually done it for all of our competitor data. And this is where it gets very interesting. And so now we have these 2 giant data sets of our data and our competitor data, including the SQL sort of data sets around pricing, around sizes, weights, and dimensions. And we've got about 10 different use cases for that one. So that's sort of live now. And then in the next sort of 3 to 9 months, the next one that's already sort of coming is we are going to be deploying a new telephone-based phone system for 100 of our staff, which will be live transcribing conversations, and it will be trying to predict what the customer wants and it will be diving into these agentic models to either find the products that the customer needs to solve the problem, or it will be looking up, is there a Salesforce case that is currently open, or it will be looking up where the order is in terms of the tracking with the courier and all of those sorts of things. So these are the data sets that we spent a lot of time. Let's go right back to that operating model. Is that 4 years ago we realized we needed to rebuild our whole data pipeline. And by doing that and spending the time doing that, we're now just starting to reap the rewards of building these tools. And so in 3 to 9 months, I expect that if someone rings up our agent person, we'll be able to see a box pop up saying, hey, this customer's got an order, it's missed the default delivery window, they're probably going to be checking where's their order is currently at this status, it will be with them in the next day, say sorry. So when they answer the phone, they're prepped. Now this is the level, people still buy from people at the moment. But what we're doing is we're empowering our people where we've got 50,000 products and 100,000 businesses to be able to answer their questions instantly or in a way that gives a level of credibility. So we're playing with a whole lot of stuff. There is only one of me in our team that does AI, and I've partnered with an amazing group of people at Aduco that will sit down with me. They'll understand our business problem, because it always comes back to the problem. AI is not the answer. It's one of a giant truckload of answers that you can reach for. It has some really good skills. And for those of you that have tried to do a process diagram and get AI to draw it for you, you'll know that it can't spell. Now, I'm dyslexic and I am very bad at spelling, but I can pick up its spelling mistakes, and that says something. So there is some really big sort of hurdles still to come, but you've got to use it for what it's good at.
Thank you. I love the focus on outcomes. It's not about technology, but outcomes in the end, and that's the way our organization tries to engage and talk about this. Is there anything else you can share with the audience in terms of advice and how they look to incorporate AI into their data strategies?
Well, based on just before, if I could give you anything, I would have invested in NVIDIA and I wouldn't be here, right? So let's take this with a grain of salt, right? I'm just going to say that out there. But here's some of the things that I learned out of my sort of dabbling in this. First one, lean into the problems before you get to them. So security, privacy, legal. If you've got a legal team, hunt them down before you even start. Find your playing field. I know where I will get in trouble, and there are areas that I am not allowed to go in, right? So I know that up front. So first one, make sure you've got a business company policy on it, make sure you've got your legal sign-off, make sure you've got your frameworks all done, and everyone knows the rules that you're playing in, otherwise you're going to waste a truckload of money. 2, always keep going back to what is the problem. The amount of times I've had leaders come into my business say, hey, I read this really great thing about what AI can do, and we want to deploy this in my team. And I just go, nah, there's the door. The first thing I go is tell me the problem. Because a lot of people are already jumping to the solution before they can really articulate the problem. Now that comes to my third point, is understand how these things cost. So unless anyone here has tokenized, vectorized, has worked out how companies are charging you, figure out how you cost that before you would go anywhere near this. Because I've got examples of companies that I've worked with in New Zealand, just helping them out, where they've built AI models over their intranet, and it's costing them $2 or $3 Kiwi. Granted, it's kind of peso when you compare it, but it's costing them a truckload of money for their staff just to find the leave policy. It's not the right tool. And the last one I'm going to say is get permission to change the structure of your organization. McKinsey's, all of those have come out and said, 90% of AI projects fail. And that's partly because you have to augmentate your organization on the way through. Otherwise, you can't sort of rechange, that example that I gave around the process of moving from 10 to 15 people to 2. You actually have to be able to change what people do. Now, that's just the framework, right? That you've got to get that done first. Then there's Last 3, just for you guys, because you're the data people, is don't go chasing all the shiny toys. No, keep going, why, understand the problem and try and find and prove that AI is not the right answer before you jump there, right? Because there are a lot of other tools out there, especially like, I suppose, machine learning is AI, but there's lots of other ways that you can solve the same problem right now, and it doesn't always have to be AI because that cost model does kick in very, very quickly. So don't go chasing the shiny tools. Resources are a challenge. I have 50 people in my team, and we do everything from, I've got a $50 million sales business through to all master data, through to infrastructure, all of our data developers. There is no one that knows and keeps up with the speed of which AI is changing. So I have to have a trusted partner that is specialised in it. And then don't be afraid to say no, right? Because again, it's got to come back to where's the value for my customer, for my employee, and for my stakeholder, because if it doesn't deliver on those 3, don't do it.
Great perspectives, thank you. I also you mentioned them, but I just want to say thank you also to our partner, Duco.
Yep.
Wonderful partner.
Oh, look, they have kept me straight and narrow. As you can imagine, I'm sort of the person that goes chasing the toys. And it's nice to have a partner that has got the trust in me, but I've also got the trust in them that they can tell me, nah, don't go there, or, we can do it for you, but it's going to cost you a fortune and won't deliver you any value. So together we've created this sort of amazing sort of solution set at the moment.
So Jeff, thank you very much again for being here. Have a very safe trip home. Another plug is there is a session, if you want to continue the conversation, there's a session at 4:45 tomorrow, a breakout that Jeff's going to conduct in the Teagle room. So he did travel a long way, so try to fill the room, please. And I want to also just say that we're about to go on a break, and I would encourage everybody to take advantage of the marketplace and also meet some of our other partners. So again, thank you very much, and thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.